Well, hello again, and welcome to M4L Academy's 101 interviews. I'm so excited to get some extra time speaking to Laura Derrendinger, who is from Vermont. She's a public health nurse who's been doing some incredible work in the screen-free, phone-free world. Advocacy, just fighting for our children to have non-digital lives, or lives that aren't fully controlled by the digital space. So we don't have a ton of time, so I want to jump right in and get a chance to unpack your story of, first of all, let's start off by telling me, what is your background? Just a quick, I know we did that a little bit already, but how did you get into this and how did you start making waves right away?
So before I became a mother of 4, 3 boys and a daughter, I worked overseas in war zones with Doctors Without Borders.
Wow.
And the way we made decisions about how and what to do, because there are so many things to do, is we looked at what were the top things that were making people sick or causing excess death, specifically with regards to children. So that is how I assess and scan situations everywhere. So here in the States, unfortunately, and it's sad to say, but it is the current data, that ever since 2012, when smartphones and social media became ubiquitous in our pediatric youth population, ever since 2012, and we have the graph to illustrate this, we have seen a steady increase, in some cases 7 or 8% increase every year. Wow. Of child intentional self-harm, admissions into emergency room for suicide-related emergency visits, intentional self-poisonings, and suicide deaths. And these are children. When I was in nursing school, I graduated from nursing school in the 90s. This was not something that was even an issue. But right now, we have data, and again, I have a table to show you this, that for kids over the age of 10, suicide is the second leading cause of death. It's the second reason children in our country don't reach their 18th birthday. So that's how I looked at it. I was reading the medical literature, the Journal of the American Medical Association, reading all of these articles about how social media products and smartphones are they're not the only factor, but it is a significant enough contributing factor that when I look as a nurse about what can we do in the environment to prevent this from happening, that's my urgency, is to prevent it. That's why I was then thinking, let's address what we can, is to make the school day a healthy environment. So in Vermont, back in early 2023,
Real quick, I just have to ask, are you saying that what woke you up to this was just reading the articles in JAMA?
Reading the research. I have been engaged in this advocacy since 2018.
Okay.
But JAMA, Health Affairs, Pediatrics, The Lancet, there's many, many medical peer-reviewed journals that have been publishing information about this for a very long time.
And you just started seeing the trends, it sounds like?
I was seeing the trends, and then what was helpful was that health officials started also publicly speaking in the news media. Okay. So the idea was gaining traction. Obviously, this was Jonathan Haidt's Anxious Generation book has been so helpful. Yeah. When I first drafted legislation with some other moms in Vermont, this was before his book came out. Oh, wow. So this was in 2023. I was saying, look, how can we at least get phones and social media out of schools? How can we do this? And I was calling the Department of Education. I was calling the Department of Health. I was calling anybody I could call, and I'm old-fashioned. I just pick up the phone and call. That's one of my tools that if we're talking to other parents out there and moms, that's something that's helpful because most people aren't used to getting calls. So sometimes by accident, they pick up the phone and I'm on the other end. So I was calling and nobody was helping me. I said, what can we do about this? I mean, what can we do to make the school a better and a safer environment, at least to try and minimize cyberbullying and take away aspects of distraction that we know the phones cause. And it was actually another governmental office. It was an attorney who, in Vermont, there's an Office of Civil Rights, I think that's the name of it. And that is the office that manages a lot of the harassment that happens in school. And that attorney obviously had dealt with a lot of cyberbullying and social media related online cyberbullying cases in schools. And so I said, what can we do? And this attorney said to me, well, you have to write a law. And I'm thinking, well, I've never done that before, but okay. And she told me the senator to reach out to, who was my own senator, Senator Terry Williams. And he is a Republican in our county. Vermont's really small. And so I did. I picked up the phone and I called him and I said, I'm your constituent. I want to write a bill about this. And you know what he said? Sure, let's give it a try.
So, and you were telling me something a little interesting, which I did not realize this, that Vermont is set up so that anyone can write a law, correct? Am I remembering
our
that
Vermont legislature is, I think they call it a volunteer legislature.
Okay.
So they don't have staff. And so it's, they're in session during the winter season because Vermont is an agricultural state.
Oh.
So we have a very brief window, January roughly through April, to get laws introduced and passed.
Okay.
And this was all new to me, to be clear. I did not have a background in this at all. But I called Senator Williams, and he understood what I was talking about because he has grandkids. And he understood the bullying and harassment that was happening to his, I don't know if it personally happened to his grandchildren, but he understood it because he's very involved in their lives. And so he said, yes, sure, let's do this. And so I got together with some moms, and we wrote down in prose what we wanted to see. Mm-hmm. And we tried to introduce it so that was in 2023. So we had to introduce it the next year in 2024.
Okay.
Because that session is so short.
Yeah.
So we introduced it in 2024. And in that session of 2024, again, it was before the Anxious Generation had come out. So people thought we were crazy, absolutely crazy. Even our own health commissioner publicly testified that our law was too heavy-handed.
Wow.
I was shocked, but it just goes to show what a information silo we are in.
Yeah.
So a little defeated and frustrated, the bill did not pass.
In 2024.
In 2024,
Okay.
It did not. And so I spent the summer gathering more moms and more parents. We do have some dads as part of our group. And I called principals, and I went and met with principals who were already going to be doing a bell-to-bell phone-free school policy.
Oh, great.
And
just for the schools, right? Is that what you're saying? So you're meeting with people that were already working on this. That's great.
Yeah, to build in my allies and sort of leverage people that would be potential champions for
sure.
this. Because we need, when we're passing laws like this, to show success stories. And so what happened then is that in this process, I met a Democratic lawmaker called Representative Angela Arsenault. And it is so beautiful because we put Senator Terry Williams and Representative Angela Arsenault together to pair up and work on this bill.
There you go.
So nobody could say it was a
one party or the other.
Nope.
Yeah.
Fully bipartisan all the way. And we were just able to get a lot of momentum. We started writing a community letter of support. So we said, we're going to reintroduce it. The bill was a phone and social media free school bill.
Okay.
So the language bell to bell says all personal devices need to be not accessible to the student from arrival until dismissal.
Now, how did you get that through when sometimes there's a concern, an argument being raised that, this is personal property and the law government can't tell you that you can't have access to your own personal property. So how do you respond to that?
We also say kids can't bring knives and guns into school. We already have precedents set where we say certain things cannot be in school, or if they do, they are confiscated at entrance upon entry.
We agree as a society that certain things should not be allowed in that location. What about for parents who say, I want to be able to reach my kids? How do you respond to that?
So there are a few different things that we share to support parents, because I absolutely understand for many parents, for many reasons, why sometimes that separation with their child during the school day can cause concern and anxiety for the parent. We, first of all, make sure that the school has a communication system. So my children do go to a high school that is phone-free, bell-to-bell. And if I need to reach my kids, I do call the front office, and they are able to relay the message. So
I was going to say, it's possible to have communications outside of cell phones.
That works. And also, in one of my testimonies, I shared that if I showed up at school and wanted to sign in and say, I'm just going to go down the hallway. I know my son is in physics class, but I want to ask him if he wants lasagna or chicken for dinner. They would not allow me to do that.
Oh my
They
God.
would say, Mrs. Derrendinger, thank you for coming to school, but no, your son is in physics class.
Yeah.
You can write a note and we'll pass it to him. So a lot of these immediate need to communicate are really not. And obviously, the other thing we really want to encourage children to be independent during the day and to learn how to access resources.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is why I know it's off topic. My 16-year-old does not even have a mobile phone. And I'd say the biggest reason why actually doesn't even have anything to do with social media.
Okay.
Of course, he does not use social media products. If he is taking the bus in Washington, D.C. from point A to point B, or if he's biking around Vermont and he gets lost or something happens, the most safe thing for him to do is to be prepared and understand how to know what is around in his environment. What resources does he have? How has he familiarized himself with the route? Has he planned ahead so he can tell me he's leaving at this time and he's expected to arrive at this time?
Mm-hmm.
And those mechanics of healthy and secure communication, we override them when we have this portable digital communication device, which undermines a lot of those fundamental human navigation skills we want kids to have. And so I sometimes call myself, as the mom, the chief friction officer. Like, it's my job to make your life as a teenager kind of as hard as possible. And I just want you to struggle. It's like owls apparently push their baby owl out of the nest to have to fend for some food. But they need to learn those skills. And my son did get lost on his bike when he was 12 or 13, and we live in a really remote rural place. He didn't show up for an hour. He had gone to do chores at somebody's farm, and he would bike to and from the farm. So he didn't show up. I called the farmer, and she said, yeah, he left when he said he was going to leave, and we knew he was on a usual route. Well, that little 12 or 13-year-old brain took a right-hand turn instead of a left-hand turn, and he just pedaled until he figured out he was lost.
No.
And so he couldn't call me because he didn't have a phone. What he did have is a real compass. He had a real compass in his backpack and we had given him an orienteering course, which just is a fancy name for teaching kids how to use a compass and read a paper map and navigate and orient when they get lost. So he had that, which is not a hard thing to do. I mean, it's not hard to teach kids how to do that. So he was able to look at the mountain or the hills and orient himself. He actually did not backtrack. He took a different route, but he found his way back to the fire department in town. He called me from the fire department. And when I got him, he said, okay, this is what happened. And he explained. And I said, well, I love you. And looks like, you're okay, right? You didn't get hurt. And I said, was that scary? And did that make you nervous? And he said, yeah, that was scary. And I was nervous because we're in very rural Vermont. So there were no people around. And I said, well, you've just solidified my resolve for why I'm not going to give you a phone, because now you have a blueprint. You have agency that next time you figuratively or literally get lost, you have something to reference where you were successful, that you were lost and nervous and scared, and you were able to navigate.
Yep.
That is a huge skill that you just gifted yourself. And honestly, in some parts of the world, there are still places where there are no cell tower service.
Yeah.
So it can happen. It can even happen in DC. It can happen anywhere that our cell phones actually stop working. And we do fundamentally need our kids to be trained on how to do everything analog.
Well, I think it's funny that you say this, because I think to these movies where it's this future, like Star Trek generation kind of thing, right? That all of this technology just does the basic things. And we hear this also with AI coming about, that, you can eliminate this lower level learning because you don't have to worry, or teachers don't have to worry about it as much, or we're going to advance students faster or whatever, as if that's truly possible, which I don't think it is. But because of this concept that kids will just be able to look anything up. So why should you memorize certain skills or understand certain basic things? Because you can just look it up anyway. Yeah. But if you don't who's actually teaching their kids? Because I feel like everyone pushes it off to somebody else. Well, someone's going to do it. What if all technology fails? Someone will manage it. Oh, who? Who's going to handle it? Like, if we're not actually actively teaching our children that, no one's going to be able to do it. And also, I love that you said the agency of it. I don't want to spend too much time on this just because I know we don't have a ton of time, but I love that story. It is so important to do that for your kids. And that is so encouraging, by the way. I would imagine that he felt so much more empowered after that. Even though he was nervous, I bet later he would say, I figured it out. I knew I could handle it. Or if he faces something else. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Okay.
So back to the law. So I got this champion Republican, champion Democrat to pair up together, and which doesn't happen a lot. Yeah. It's happening more on this topic, though, at the federal level. It's lovely. Senator Katie Britt and Senator John Fetterman have a warning label bill that they introduced together.
That is great.
And they've paired up on. So it's just wonderful to see that bipartisan approach. But so they agreed to introduce the law. We pared it down into what is now nationally, at the same time, concurrently, let's say, other states were mobilizing. So I want to let people know that we have these resources across. So we collectively as parents started what we call the Distraction-Free School Policy Project.
Okay.
Anybody can look up that website.
Say that again.
Distraction-Free School Policy Project.
Okay. And is that .org or what's the website for it?
Oh my, we can probably post that in the show notes and then make sure it goes under there. So on there, what we were able to do as a larger national coalition is write up this bill language. So it's sort of just take it, share it with your lawmaker. This best practice language that really outlines the points of the phone will not be accessible from arrival to dismissal. And we say this is a phone-free school day so that we're going to be just supporting a healthy environment for kids. And then the other part of the law says schools need to stop using social media to communicate with children. So stop having the sports team or the ultimate frisbee or hockey on Snapchat and Instagram. That's so dangerous for kids. It's the adults inviting kids into a very unsafe experience when there are other ways to organize our basketball teams and our hockey teams. It does not need to be on a dangerous social media platform. So that's the law. People can find that. And the story of what we did in Vermont and then now what we're doing in other states is that we started a community support letter. We did not call it a petition because we wanted to use just positive and inviting language. So a community support letter says to our lawmakers, the parents here are supporting you. We want this.
Okay.
So that helped our lawmakers. We, in Vermont, which is a tiny state, so proportionally it was a lot, we're able to get 2,500 parents and professionals and Vermont voters to sign it.
That sounds like a lot to me anyway.
And we did not use any social media products in our entire process of mobilizing our community.
That's impressive.
It was mom, word of mouth in all of our communities. And we became a coalition and sort of supported our lawmakers to usher the legislation through, which was passed and signed by our governor, Phil Scott, in June of this year.
That's awesome.
In our state, Vermont is the first state to make it illegal for schools to use social media to communicate with students.
I think that's huge. And there's real quick, I want to say that how much it disturbs me that schools do use social media and post their children's faces online. I mean, you've probably seen the AI ad about, or I don't want to call it AI anymore after our conversation, the large language model ad where it shows a girl who is, it's like in a theater, and her face is posted on social media, and then it shows AI like taking it in and extrapolating it into all sorts of other nefarious purposes, basically. And how, because parents had posted pictures of the child growing up, then AI was able to, extrapolate everything because it had her growing up.
Digital footprint that the child did not ask for, and it will follow that child into their career, into the university, and yes.
And I wonder how many parents realize that when you're signing off for photos, like that means that your kid could be going online, or your child's face could be on their social media, which you just never know who's seeing that. And that is very disturbing.
And I always say no. I X the box no, that I refuse.
So tell, and I know we're getting right to the end. So tell everyone, how can they join this? Because you have a weekly phone call or a monthly phone call.
So what we have now is, obviously this is beyond Vermont. That's just my micro story of how I got this going. We created this coalition across states because we're not experts. We're experts because we're moms and we know what's best for our kids. That's our claim for true expertise. And we follow the research. I will say this is all informed by best practice research, this legislation that we are advocating for. So what we did is, because we have this big network, is we reached out to parents across states, and we now have at least 33 states where we have teams doing exactly what we did in Vermont. Massachusetts, Kansas, Texas, the state of Washington, Oregon, Ohio, Florida. And every week since February, every Wednesday at noon Eastern, we meet, and it's like war room huddle of strategy of, my senator said this, or this group is saying this, what should I say? And we just come together and we help each other out.
That's awesome.
It's not a lecture. It's not a webinar. It's just people can sign up. It's on the Distraction Free School Policy Project website that people can sign up for the link to join. We call these community of practice calls.
Okay.
And it's phenomenal because we just help each other. We just help each other out. And for example, the team in Maryland, I have the Maryland card here that directs people to their community support letter. They now have over 700 signatures, and they just started a couple months ago supporting this legislation. And so the team in the state of Washington was getting started and having a hard time getting signatures. So we put the Maryland moms in touch with the Washington moms, and they talk and give each other tips. And it's so fun to see. And it's really everybody, it's not just one organization. It was founded, this Distraction Free School Policy Project, we started the leadership, or just the initiative of it, was with the Becca Schmill Foundation, which is run by Deb Schmill. Deb Schmill lost her daughter, Becca, and she is now, because of online and social media harms, and so she's now honoring her daughter, Becca, by all of this advocacy. And I'm so grateful that she is with us. And so many moms who lost their children are joining to share their stories and help move all sorts of change in this space, not just this legislation. And then we have team members from Smartphone Free Childhood US as well, who are helping facilitate this. But again, we have members across, from Screen Strong, from the Balance Project, OK to Delay, Wait Until 8th, you name it. It's just parents in all of these groups.
That's awesome.
It's just what we're doing, which is a little unique, but which is so awesome because it's going to amplify, is that we're kind of, even within states of Massachusetts, we're connecting people in their same state so they can find their own people. I thought it was crazy that I introduced two people in College Station, Texas, who had never met. Oh, wow. But they came through the funnel. And then somebody's leading the team in Texas, and we just push everybody to that person. And the other legislation that we're advocating for isn't just phone and social media free schools. It addresses the problem of Chromebooks and devices in schools.
Which is so big. It definitely is. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Remind everyone, well, actually, the website, I'll make sure that we get it posted in the show notes. And then, of course, screenstrong.org is where we have this curriculum, which we featured Melanie Hempy at Summit. We got to hear her story. And we have all sorts of tools that we'll be able to share. I'll get links to everything so that people can access it and get dialed in to be able to get connected and disconnected.
And even if people can't make it at 12 noon on Wednesdays, they could still kind of sign up and come in, and then we can still link them with team members in their states if they want to help.
Okay.
So
awesome. All sorts of ways to make it work.
Connect people.
See, that's what moms do. Moms are good at that. We find ways to get it done.
We're very pragmatic and we get stuff done.
I agree. Well, thank you very much for joining us for this special episode where we got to go behind the scenes and understand how Laura's been and her team are doing an incredible job helping to fight phones and screens in schools. Hopefully we'll see Chromebooks go next. I know that is a big one for the docket because we want to get those out as well. So all of the websites will be linked in the show notes so that you can, in the description, so that you can find and get connected. And thank you again, and we will see you next time.